Working for MSF can be a rewarding and even life-changing experience. But due to the nature of our work, the potential risks to your safety and security will be much higher than those you are used to at home. By working with MSF, you accept you may be working in environments with heightened safety and security threats. This is something you should consider thoroughly before applying, as you may not get to choose where you go on your first deployment. While we have to accept that it's impossible to eliminate all risks, MSF has security protocols in place which are there to help manage risk and ensure that you are able to carry out your work as safely and securely as possible. Working with MSF is voluntary, but it should be a balanced and well-intentioned decision. It's your personal responsibility to strictly observe our rules and regulations. Because ultimately, your behaviour and attitude on and off duty is your best safeguard against safety and security incidents. Missions can be roughly categorised by whether they are low, medium or high risk. On low risk missions, regulations will be fairly relaxed. For example, there may not be a curfew in place and you may be permitted to use public transport and even take your holidays in the country. In most MSF missions, however, there is at least a medium level of risk. This means that, depending on the context, there may be a curfew, whereby the hours you're allowed outside of your residence are restricted. Often that means you're not allowed to leave the compound after dusk. In other cases, you may be restricted to the compound and immediate surroundings only. You may not be able to leave the compound on foot, or you may not be able to go anywhere alone. You may also be required to adhere to the country's cultural norms, for example, gender segregation in public spaces or wearing appropriate clothing. Use of MSF identification may be mandatory, which signifies to others that you are a representative of MSF and honour our charter. Additionally, in medium-level risk situations, personnel are often required to be contactable at all times by radio or mobile phone, and to report their movements regularly. On missions where there is a high level of risk, your movements may be severely restricted and you will be required to follow very specific instructions and procedures. You may encounter large numbers of armed personnel in the area, and you may even be living and working close to areas with active armed conflict. In some situations, it's possible that you may have to suspend your activities and travel to a safer location. In particularly extreme conditions, insecurity may not allow you to leave a situation, even though you may desperately want to leave. In these situations, it may be safer to stay put than to evacuate. MSF has an established chain of command which ensures that responsibility is delegated appropriately and efficiently. The head of mission is responsible for security management for the entire MSF mission in a specific country and is located at headquarters within that country. The project coordinator is responsible for managing team security at the project level in the field. He or she will keep up to date on the situation in the project location at all times, will constantly assess the safety and security of all staff, and will ensure all staff adhere to the regulations that are in place. An average field project team has between 4 and 12 international volunteers working in collaboration with up to 200 local staff, so you can imagine this is a heavy task. When it comes to security decisions, the chain of command is strongly hierarchical. The head of mission and PCs are in charge and their instructions have to be followed. Despite being diligent about our security, we can offer no guarantees. But we do our best to understand the risks specific to the location and context we work in, minimize these risks as much as possible, and make sure those who are taking the risks are fully informed. Many find working with MSF to be a rewarding experience, but working for MSF isn't just about seeking adventure or wanting a cool job. Primarily, it's about delivering the best possible medical care to people in need and standing in solidarity with those who often have no one else to rely on. Your presence among these women, men, and children in times of trouble sends a deeply meaningful message to them. You have not been forgotten.